The following is a presentation in the Controltrends podcasting network.
I heard this before, Cascade of Destruction. I think that is a fascinating term. Tell us a little bit about that and then the new world that comes after.
So I teach autonomous vehicle business and IoT business or Internet of Things business at Stanford Continuing Studies, and also have my own online site called Driverless World School, where I focus on new technologies. How are they going to impact a particular industry? And what I find fascinating is it's never one industry. It starts with one industry, and you think that's not my competition. I'm going to just look at people who are in the similar business. There's a whole cascade from different industries. So back to what we were talking about, cars, people who are looking at self-driving cars are thinking about this as it's going to impact transportation, it's going to impact automotive industry. Maybe it will cascade into the parts suppliers of automotive. But when it comes to the building and it talks to utilities, who thought utilities and automotive had something in common? But now they're going to create that cascade effect. Wow. That's what I meant as the cascade of disruption. So inside the building, when you talk about adding connectivity to the building, it doesn't have to just be the one power source of the building or the facility manager who's watching, how to manage power for the building. There are so many appliances inside the building. So that connectivity or the data ownership could come from many different players. So one is HVAC manufacturers. They could add connectivity. They could have access to the data. Or even like somebody who makes faucets in the bathrooms in buildings could actually add connectivity. And think of this crazy use case. It's not too crazy, but feasible. So somebody is making faucets and selling it to buildings. And that's their business. So they think of themselves as we manufacture, and here we are a B2B business selling to, buildings, right? When they add connectivity or they add some kind of sensor, now they can actually keep track of how much water is being used as the faucet is on. Oh, that's one data. The other thing is they could actually start gathering information about what time of the day is this usage, and is there, what frequency, how many people are coming and opening the tap and closing the tap. So they could have data, this faucet maker could have data on how many people are in the building at any given point of time. And that could be an information they could provide to the facilities manager to manage their fire code. So it's a totally different way of thinking about it. That's what I called as cascade. So the facilities manager should not just think about how do I manage my energy usage and water usage and keep my people safe, but think about who else is adding connectivity in their existing suppliers and whether they can gather data from that to do something that's going to change their way of doing business, which is good for their customers.
I think it's almost imperative if you're going to survive in this new connected world, this IoT world, that you have to be thinking in those terms. And again, if you think about our listeners on this show, Sudda, are every from manufacturers of controls to the people that install them, to the people that specify them, and the building owners. So like Ken said, it keeps using the term inflection point. And in your book, IoT Disruption, which I highly encourage everybody to read. I mean, you can get it on Kindle for $3. I don't think you charged enough for that, by the way. So it's so useful. You're saying that you're saying between 26 and 50 billion devices will be connected by 2020, which is next year.
Yeah.
And you also, I think your definition of what IoT is that you had in that book, I think is really enlightening. I've never heard that quite before. Do you mind telling our community what you think IoT is? Because I think it sheds light on how they might be able to come in and capitalize on this structural change we're seeing.
So IoT stands for Internet of Things, and it is about adding connectivity to ordinary things. So it's like your thermostat or chairs or even your building as a unit, right? And people typically think of it as, okay, it's a piece of technology. Now I'm going to add sensors. It's going to give data. It goes to the cloud. That's one definition of IoT. The way I look at it is, today we connect to the internet using our mobile phones or using computers. In future, when any ordinary thing can have internet connectivity, it is going to share information about what is the temperature, what is the humidity, and how long is something going on, is there movement, and cameras are going to capture videos and pictures. All of that becomes data, and when that data is accessed in real time, it creates a whole new world. So for me, my definition of IoT is a whole new way of living, whole new way of working. It's a whole different world, what I call as the driverless world. It's not just about the driverless car, but it is about a connected world where whatever problems we are used to just living with, thinking that, like traffic, we put up with traffic in our commute, or I have to turn my garage door on and off manually. Instead, all that could be done remotely because now it's connected to the internet. So it's a different way of thinking and living. And I believe we are getting to that world somewhere around the 2030 timeframe. By 2020, that number you quoted from my book is from Gartner. Gartner has predicted that there will be 50 billion devices that are connected. And I wrote that book, the first one, IoT Disruptions, I wrote that in 2015. And I've been watching, and we are getting to that number. So recent data shows that there are so many of these devices that are being connected. So by that, it still holds good by 2020. We're just in the beginning of 2019, so it almost gives us 2 years' time.
But Sudda, the piece that you had that I want our community to hear, because I thought this was absolutely brilliant, because all that you did talk about in the book, but you made a statement in there that I want our community to hear, because I think it really sheds a light on this. It allows problems to be solved now that could not be solved before we had IoT and all the sensor data. And I think if our community can begin to think in those terms, we're going to see so many opportunities, because what you're saying is with all this stuff coming, I mean, it's a tsunami, it's a wave. You can either be, drowned by it, or you can ride the wave. And I think to ride the wave, you have to be thinking in terms of what problems can this solve? What can you create with this, as opposed to just reacting to it? You have to be part of the creation process.